Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. And what we're looking at this time is a unique knife. This is the Tsubaki Aogami or Blue number 2 Bunka 210 millimeter knife. And let's go through the specs and we'll talk about the knife shape, which is a bit unique. So the core steel is Aogami or Blue Paper number 2 reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi. Heat treat on that core steel is about 62 to 63 Rockwell. That's what they shoot for. These are hand hammered and hand forged. The construction is a reactive iron cladding, a soft iron cladding on either side of that Aogami number 2, and the cladding has a kudauchi or blacksmith kind of protective finish over it, and the finish is somewhat unique from this maker. The also, just to expect, when you pull these out of the box, the finish is going to have just some just granules that are going to kind of come off just from being new. So I would recommend you get a little scrub brush, just one of your kitchen scrub brushes, bristle brush, not a abrasive scrubby, but just a bristle brush or a toothbrush, and maybe just go through it with some soap and water and just get some of those loose little particles off. So you'll kind of notice that out of the box. It's no biggie. It's you'll see it wipe off if you take a cloth to it right out of the box. But anyway, that's just kind of left over from the creation process. The knife, if you look at the shape of it, it's a bit unique. So this is known as the Hakata style. So it has a couple different, a few different aspects. One is it's a very flat profile. The other is you've got a very aggressive reverse sword tip on it with a more triangular shape, which points out further than a normal kind of bunka style, for example. And then you've also got on the spine, this one is not as exaggerated as the shorter ones, but it's got a little bit of a curve to the spine. So it's just a characteristic style of this region and this maker. So what about the knife itself? The dimensions and weights and stuff are going to vary a little bit from knife to knife because of the handmade process, but this particular one is about 217 grams or 7.7 ounces, so it's a chunk of metal. You can feel that in your hand. We'll look at that. The edge length is about 213 millimeters on the edge, or 8.4 inches. Overall length about 14.6. The spine thickness, this is a fairly chunky, stout blade, so it's about 3.6 millimeters coming out of the handle above the back of the blade, and then it holds a lot of that and just keeps that, makes the corner or the turn with the reverse sword tip, and then you can see it really doesn't thin up a lot until you hit the tip, and it gets nice and thin at the very, very tip. They grind these really thin right at the very edge. It's a really cool knife, but it's a hunk of metal, and if you want some weight forward mass, this is it. They're pretty tall too. The blade height at the back here, and I actually measured it up slightly because they've got a bit of a fair amount of back belly here at the heel, so it doesn't just slam on the board. So I measured that a little bit in front of that to account for that. So it's about 52 millimeters. So there's a ton of clearance here. Not a problem there. It's a tall blade. It's a light handle, really light handle. So the balance is aggressively forward. It's way up there, and that's forward of my pinch grip. So you've got some mass there. If you want some chopping mass, this gives it to you. The handle's nothing fancy. It's an oval, have a large diameter or circumference, I should say. Howood with a metal ferrule, which is kind of unique. There's a pretty big jump here between the wood and the ferrule. That's just the style they use. It's something you're either going to be okay with or you're going to hate it. But this is a nice enough knife. You could definitely put your own handle on this. And if you wanted to bring the balance point back a little, a custom handle would, bring that back a little bit if it's a little bit heavier. So this is, if you really like this, end up liking this knife, and it fits your style, it's definitely worthy. It's a unique enough knife, and it's a nice enough quality, and a really cool piece. It's worth a custom handle. You do have a fair amount of gap there on the install, so if you're going to keep this stock, I'd seal that up with something, wax or epoxy or something, so it doesn't get water in there and rust your tang on you. But anyway, so the handle circumference is about 82 millimeters right here, right behind the ferrule. So pretty good hunk of handle in your hand as well. So again, this is a kind of a beast of a knife. The out of the box edge, it's almost taken to a zero grind. So let's take a close-up look at it. One of the unique things also on this knife is kind of the finish. So it's a kudauchi finish. They've got their own particular style of kudauchi. It's got some texture to it. yet it's kind of smooth at the same time. It's pretty interesting. So they've got the camellia flower logo. One of the things they tout in the box is an extra deep tang for strength, so the tang actually comes back, I think, way back here. So they put a longer tang on these. They've got a little bit of, it's hard to see, but they've got some shouldn't say hand, but they've got some stamped, embossed kanji on the right side of the blade. And then you got that camellia flower on the left side of the blade. And again, the way this thing is ground, it's ground down almost to a zero grind right to the edge. And then they put maybe just kind of a slight micro bevel on it. The edge could be a little bit cleaner when you run your fingernail down there. There's a couple tiny spots on there. So you could easily put maybe a micro bevel on this on top of that, just kind of clean it up just a little bit. So the profile is extremely flat. You do have some relief on the spine and the choil and the neck, so it's comfortable. So let's take a look at it. I did use I think it was the 170 or 175 version of this, and baby, it's flat. And it was a good performing knife. It's a very interesting knife. I chose not to use this 210 since I've already used one of the knives in the line, but you can see it's a flat profile. They put a little bit of back belly there, so you got a little bit of wiggle room back there. But you're not going to rock this because that tip is, look where that is in relation to the edge. It's all the way down. It's not up here a little bit like on some Bunka knives. So you are not going to lift this. You're going to dig the tip in. So this is not for rocking. Just don't even think about it. I don't even want to do that. So this is going to be a chopper, a push. I shouldn't say, you probably won't even want to push too much, but maybe a pull. If you like to do pull glide strokes, guillotine and glide, chopping, it's going to be really good for that. This particular one, it's got a little bit of a flattish area here. If I were to keep this, I'd probably clean up the profile just a little bit and maybe take out a touch there and maybe take out a touch there and just kind of smooth it out just a little bit, but it wouldn't take much. It's pretty close. But you can see flat, flat, flat. So if you want something that's got some mass to it, some weight forward, heft to it, and you want a flat profile for serious chopping, this might be a really interesting choice for it. It's definitely unique, and like I said, this next version down of the size-wise performed really well. It was ground nicely, so food release is really good too. So there you have a unique line. This is the Tsubaki Aogami number 2 Bunka / Hakata style Bunka 210mm knife.